Hi guys. Grace has the flu today, so I'm in charge. Don't be scared. Lacey's computer is going around, so make sure you sign in for attendance. If you don't get it by the end of the meeting, just come up and talk to us. If you have merch, you ordered merch at the end of the meeting, see Addie. It's gonna be back there, that corner. That's where you're gonna go pick it up. Tomorrow we have mock interviews at 5 p.m. at the Dunlap Auditorium. The involvement fair is also tomorrow from 4 to 7 in the Archie M. Griffin Ballroom at the Union. Addie, Adriana, and I will be there. Also, we are volunteering at the food bank again. It's gonna be on Tuesday. There's only probably like 5 more spots open, so go check that out. We can drive you guys, pick you up at your dorms if you'd like to participate. I sent in an Excel sheet to the group me yesterday.
I'll pin it.
She's gonna pin it, so it'll be there. That's about it. I'm gonna let Addie introduce our speaker for today. How do you switch this?
Oh yeah, we have club spotlights. So we have Buckeye Bunnies here. Yeah, Buckeye Bunnies.
So Buckeye Bunnies is about providing opportunities for members to learn about the rabbit industry, rabbit professionals, and careers involving rabbits. We have a lot of Buckeye Bunny members that are already in this club. So if you guys do want to go there, I'm sure you recognize some faces. Their meetings are the last Monday of every month. Is that correct, Buckeye Bunny members? Right.
Sure.
All right, we're going with that. We're going with this. Okay.
Hey guys, I'm Secretary of Human Animal Interaction. So if anybody's interested more in like wildlife or conservation medicine or exotics, we kind of focus more on that. We have a lot of speakers that come in, like we did something with the Wildlife Center, and we're actually going to socialize bunnies on Sunday. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I can add your name to the email list. We meet on Thursdays bi-weekly at 6. So I'd really love to see some of you guys there because we're really super duper awesome.
Okay. And then I'm going to introduce Dr. Wisecup today because she works at the Frank Stanton Spectrum of Care Clinic with me. And she's the coolest. And we had, if some of you were at our executive board meeting, you know that we had somebody cancel on us pretty last minute. So she is a real one for helping us out. Well, let's see if I can start a slideshow, maybe.
I'm not a huge fan of slides anyway, although I do teach plenty. But I did throw some together. But I really, I'm sure you guys won't speak up, but I would absolutely love it if you do ask questions. It seems so loud. Does it seem loud? Yes. I agree. Let me see if I can get lower. Anyway, so ultimately, if you guys have questions, if you guys are like, hey, I really have a big question about this or that or whatever, I can pretty much hit it pretty easily. I get distracted very easily, but I will give you a little bit of talk. I'll start a little bit with my background. I think it's always interesting to see how people get to where they get. This one and focus. Oh, does it look like it would like want to unplug? Like, why would you ever? I'll just click. All right, and so I was just gonna go through a little bit of my path. So my background, I'm from Ohio, Ohio native, grew up, born, raised, lived, and pretty much I've been here almost my entire life. I've only spent really a year away from here. I grew up in a small town, more towards the Springfield area, and I did not grow up on a farm. I was like the classic rural America person. None of my parents went to college. I was the first one to go to school, as far as in my family. And ultimately I went to Wright State University, and played softball. So I played a lot of sports. So that was my first start. So my first guess or question I'm gonna ask you guys, and you can just yell out. So do you think that I wanted to be a vet my entire career, or do you think that I shifted mid-career and said, you know, you get to college and you're like, I have no idea what I want to do. So how many of you think that I wanted to be a vet my entire life? Raise your hand. How many thought I pivoted and was like, crap? Okay, so why? Why do you think? Clearly, you're very convinced.
Played soccer.
As I played softball.
Doing animal science and at the same time was part of it.
Okay. Very valid point, actually. So she's like, it's really hard to do both. Like, how the heck would you do both? Actually, I was one of the few that I said I want to be a veterinarian. And I kept working at it. And ultimately, I never really deviated from the path. Now, there was one time, and your point is excellent. After my first year, my freshman year of undergrad, I was pretty confident my degree was fresh. And that was pretty significant for me, because I'll be honest with you, like in school, I was pretty good in high school. I was the valedictorian, I was a three-sport athlete, I was on all the honors, I had 18 classes, you know, everything was like, this should be easy. And then I got to school, and then I had to play Division I sport, and I tried to act like the rest of the people on the team, which meant that we goofed off, we rode on the bus, we traveled all the time, and so it was a huge commitment, and I didn't really realize how hard it was gonna be until I took biochem. And have you ever seen when all the scores are up on the list, and you're the lowest score on the first exam? That was me. It was devastating, absolutely devastating, killed my grade, because it was so weighted, that absolutely killed my grade. And so you can't do anything about it at that point. So I just worked my ass off for the rest of the semester. Actually, I think that's the quarters at that time. The rest of the quarter, tried to pull out a B. And I ended up pulling out a D minus barely with that class because of that first grade. And from that moment on, I knew when we rode on the bus to trips, I stayed up all night on the bus ride and studied. I got up at 5 a.m. before we would start our tournament games at 7 a.m. I would stay up, I would ride, I said completely separated. I had to change the way that I was because I knew there was absolutely no way I was gonna meet my goals. And from that point forward, I changed my GPA. I was no longer in the range that they say like you have to have, like a 3.6 or above. I don't even know what it is now, but it's probably some godly number. But anyway, when it came down to it, I thought it was done, pretty much. I almost kind of just stopped on the whole thing, but I'm like, well, I'm this far into it, I'll just keep plugging away, and maybe I'll just keep chipping away at my GPA. And that's pretty much what I did. But it's crazy to come back to think that like one exam almost ruined it for me. Like it really almost did. And it was that one exam. I have to admit, I did retake that biochem class. I took it at summer school just to prove I could do it. Got an A in it. I will say that was also challenging because I also had in the middle of all that, which is a full side story. In the middle of that whole year, my dad was dying of cancer. He died that summer in the middle of that biochem class that I was retaking. So my freshman year was not a great year. It was a hard year. And the reason why I didn't really intend on actually telling that story, but the big point of the story is that it takes grit and a hell of a lot of it to achieve what you want to do sometimes. And I'm not saying that everybody has to go through that much, but for me, that's what I do. And that's how I have to work through things. I had to drop my honors programs. I remember my sophomore, junior year, I couldn't manage practices and manage honors at the same time because the classes always correlated. I remember my senior year, so I could graduate on time, I took multiple classes that were exactly at the same time. So I would have people record the lectures for me. And then I would go, they always had midterms on the same times. I'd go and take a test for an hour, and then I'd run to the other test, and I'd take a test for another hour because I was managing two classes at the exact same time. But I got it done, and ended up making it. So anyway, I went to Wright State, I got a biology degree, bachelor's degree. I then went into Ohio State. I worked the entire time. I was fortunate enough to get a job at a local clinic. I'm sure most of you guys have done things like that. And ultimately, I worked every time I could possibly work. I was exhausted, but I would still work. And I didn't just go to work. So how many people have a job at that? Or have had a job periodically? Okay, all right. So do you show up and do your normal thing and do you act like a normal employee? for the most part. For the most part. Does anybody do extra? Do you need examples of extra? Maybe? So I used to make note cards of diseases and study them. And my vet that I worked for, when he was in surgery, he would call me in and he would quiz me on diseases. He would quiz me on like hyperthyroidism, this. I remember driving and holding note cards, which is totally unsafe. And I was trying to memorize diseases on the way to work because I knew I was getting hammered when I would get in there. And ultimately, he pushed a little bit for this. I have to admit, it was partially him, but it was also me. And so I worked my butt off there. I even worked and I cleaned. So I needed extra hours. So I did every job that you can imagine there. And ultimately, it was a great experience. And I think he was a very good mentor for me. And he definitely helped me with the letters and his connections as far as helping me get into that school and helping to prepare me for how to get into that school. So make sure that you don't just do the bare minimums when you're working. Makes a difference. So anyway, so I went to Ohio State, got my degree. I also had a fun job here. At the time that I was here, they had a job called the extern job. And you had an apartment downstairs. Actually, I lived right downstairs. And I would work 24-hour shifts on the weekends, and I was on call for 24 hours. And then I would work 1 night a week. I would tech surgeries, equine, I would move dead bodies into GOTS, I would drive forklifts, I would drive all kinds of random things. You work alone and you had a key ring to literally every room in this entire building, which is insane that they let me do that. But do you want to learn how to be independent? How to figure things out? Yeah, you do that. You try running around this hospital on nights on end, running tons of lab work and stuff like that. Great job, unique job, and it really was fun. Okay. I don't know, you don't want to hear the rest of my stories, but I went on, I thought I was gonna do a specialty. I really liked everything, loved emergency, but thought I was gonna do a specialty. So I went over to Red Bank Veterinary Hospital, MASH, there in New Jersey. Amazing facility. It was at that time, it was the largest private practice in the US. It had 30 exam rooms, had a gym in it, and a parking garage. It was amazing. When you work nights during an internship, just a heads up, at least for this particular practice, you work all night long, you see all these cases, and then the next morning, there's this long table full of specialists. And I would present my cases and they would just pick you apart. But I got really good at it. By the end, they didn't pick you apart at all, because you knew all the answers to everything. But man, that was humbling as well, at 7:30, getting hammered after you've been up all night. But either way, it was a great experience, and one thing I learned out of that is that I still loved everything. So I am the classic generalist in the fact that I could not, it wasn't so much that I love everything, I couldn't give up certain things. I love them too much. I couldn't imagine not cutting something. I couldn't imagine not just doing routine stuff. I couldn't imagine not doing ultrasound. I couldn't imagine not being there for the beginning of life and the end of life. I couldn't imagine not doing everything. And so ultimately I failed to move forward and actually do a residency because I just didn't do it. So everybody else in my class smashed. And is our specialist now, except for myself. I was the one loner that decided not to do that. And I'm very proud of that decision, like it was the right decision. I probably would have been happy with it. I went then and worked in Sheffield Veterinary Hospital in London, Ohio. I came out during the recession. There was not a lot of jobs at that time. I even interviewed for jobs and they told me I was overqualified. As a 1-year vet. Sheffield Veterinary Hospital actually was phenomenal in the fact that I came out during the recession, worked in a smaller town, lower income area. So I went from an area where I could run almost everything I ever wanted to do, I could run hardly anything. And I am super thankful for that moment. And the reason being is I worked there for about 2 or 3 years. And that taught me what we talk about spectrum of care. And spectrum of care is where you have to meet a client where they are, whether that's financially, emotionally, or whatever. That means that I don't judge them that they don't have enough money to work their case out. And so in fact, I empathize with them and I say, okay, we can figure this out. That is why it's actually very easy for me to do that. I can work it up to the nil if I want to, but I can scale it back as much as I need to. And I will support them and I will hold their hand throughout that journey, even though it isn't gold standard. Okay. So that's a big theme of what we're doing. That's exactly what we're teaching next door. And it's funny how the little things in your life impact you to where it actually makes you very good at certain things. And I would have never dreamed that Sheffield would have been that type of impact, but it's totally impacted me to go from an extreme, I can do all kinds of things, to I can do the very basics and actually not work up any case and just try to figure it out. So it was a great experience. I ended up moving on to Riverside Driving Care Center, which is in Dublin, Ohio, and I spent most of my career there. I always wanted to own a practice. That was always my end goal. And so I was an owner there, a partner with multiple partners. We had 2 practices, we had Riverside Drive and we had Beachwell Veterinary Hospital. And so I owned for about 10 years and practiced there for about 15 years. And so that's my majority of my career. The rest of the partners wanted to sell, and so we ended up selling out to one of the corporates, which is pretty much what's happening everywhere. And so I didn't want to sell, just as I really love owning. And I strongly suggest if you get into vet med to try to own if you can. That is where the money is, and it also is a lot of fun. It's more work, but clearly I don't really mind working too much, so. And then I ended up switching over and going to the company that had purchased us, offered me a regional role to manage offices. And so I went to Thrive Pet Healthcare and then worked for them for a couple of years, managing regional offices. One of the things that I will say, and I think ultimately you're gonna have a lot of things that happen in your life that will stop you. And me losing my practice was actually a big down moment for me. The good thing that came out of that is it stopped me to think about what I wanted to do with the rest of my career. And so ultimately I've kind of shifted now to trying to make the profession better and less about me just treating as many pets as I possibly can. And so to me, that was actually now a very positive in the fact that I went and did that. Thrive ended up helping sponsor the facility next door, and they just happened to have an opening. They needed somebody to help run a practice because they didn't have anybody here that had actually ran practices. And so ultimately my previous company had said, hey, we want to have a role. The intent was for me to come and come back after a couple years. And so now I've been at OSU now for 2 years, just over 2 years. And ultimately, I've kind of backed off from my relationship with Thrive. And so I will likely either stay here or I might pop back into some sort of corporate type setting because I like the base of it, to be honest with you. I really like the teachings. So that's my long-winded story. My life. Pretty easy, right? I had a hell of a lot of fun the whole time, I will tell you that. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? Oh no. Oh no, I ruined it. Will that work? It's not quite the perfect. All right, so here's the at most of my practice. Ultimately, if you ever are on the floor with me, I actually tend to smile a lot. I have a blast. I'm a goofball a little bit naturally. And so I love ultrasound. So there's a picture of a slitting mass. That's me, I don't know, dentistry, me hugging another dog. That's a chemo patient. We actually did a lot of chemo. That's me doing laparoscopic procedures. So one of the biggest things at Riverside that I loved is that we did really advanced care in a GP setting, which is also, and I don't even understand it, which is also part of spectrum care. And what I mean by that is we're trying to prove that generalists can go to the very bottom of the spectrum where we can do the bare minimum, but we can also go to the extreme where we can almost act like, I'm not saying we're specialists, but we can do some of the procedures that specialists do, but at a cheaper cost, okay? And ultimately there are a subset of clients that want to do more, but can't afford the specialists. They want to hospitalize and keep them on fluids, but they can't afford this overnight CCU fee, okay? They want to do, I don't know, I know one of my other GP friends, he does PPLS. And before that was unheard of to have a GP doing GPLS. He doesn't really want it. He's really good at it. He went and did all the training. He does them repeatedly. He knows which ones he shouldn't do. And he does them every single day. And he's good at it. Now, if you had asked maybe 10 years ago, you would never probably heard of a GP doing PPLS. Okay, and he can offer it about $1,500 cheaper. And so that's the other end of the spectrum. So just know that there's two ends to it. All right, which button am I gonna hit and not screw it up? Can I hit the forward arrow or you don't know? Okay,
Perfect.
perfect. Okay. All right, so this is more, you guys are probably really gonna hate this talk. But this talk, I think, is more about, like, everybody's gonna talk to you about like that stuff and blah, 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 but when it really comes down to it, there's a couple things that I thought was important. One of them is like, what do you guys think success is gonna look like? And how do you be successful in your career and your life, whatever you end up doing? And then I was gonna transition that into, some of my suggestions for trying to be successful. So what do you guys think success looks like? I think pictures. Is it the man running to the top of the mountain? Have you guys thought about it? Like, what is your success? Is it getting investable? For most of you, how many people want to get invested? Okay, is that what success looks like? Maybe, it's okay to say yes, like that's your goal. Is that gonna make you happy? Yes. Hey, that's fair. That's all right. And the reason why I ask this question is some people, you know, especially, that's probably like your first step, and then ultimately your end goal is what to be a veterinarian. Okay, and be practicing and things like that. And for some people, your career is going to be what is success for. I'll be honest with you, I'm very much identified with my career. My career is my life, and I have a family, I have a whole bunch of other things. I do consider my career part of my success, so I don't have any problem with it. I'm not trying to like badmouth it by any means. But I think it is important to know, what do successful people do to be successful? And I also fully am fine with people who say, hey, my success is that I just want to be, I don't know, just a general practitioner that only comes to work and does my job and goes home. Like, that's success for some people. So don't think that you have to be super accelerated to be successful. I do 100% agree with that one iceberg picture. And I think you're probably already hearing it with me. Just because you see somebody that looks really successful doesn't mean that they didn't go through a lot. And most of them probably have. It's usually part of the process. It usually doesn't just happen. So have you ever thought like certain people are lucky and they get in and other people aren't? Who believes in luck? It's all right. You guys play lottery too? I'm terrible. I don't play the lottery at all. So does luck really happen? Do you think people get lucky and get a break and get into certain things? It's a good question. And we had this come up during, so actually one of my crazy things that I'm doing right now is I'm getting my MBA. Because I am crazy. But I like learning and I like figuring out new things. And I'll be honest with you, there's a reason why I'm doing my MBA. I have found that some people are extremely lucky and some people aren't, and I'm not really sure if it's really luck or not, because I think some people just put themselves in the right positions. They build the right relationships, they do the right things, they are in the right place, they are the people that people think about in certain situations because of how you behave. So those that have grit, those that are in the right positions, those that are in that job, those that have taken that leadership role, those that have been, they are strategically putting themselves in a position to be lucky. And so you gotta think about all those little things that you're doing, like, are you really managing yourself to where those experiences, when they're like, hey, something opened up, so-and-so just bailed on us, I need somebody for this internship, can you show up? Like, if you had that relationship with those people, and so like, you just gotta be a little thoughtful in the fact that I think there's actually less luck in it. And it's more that people make their own luck because of them being gritty and successful and working hard and keeping good relationships with people and things like that. So I hate to say that I somewhat believe in it, but I also think that people put themselves in situations where good things happen. And then it probably has a little more with that. Now, I do think that people are unlucky too, in the fact that I think people sometimes squander situations that can be successful. Don't take advantage of situations. Don't follow up with people in a Don't show up to work on time. I almost lost my job at that vet clinic. I didn't show up once. That happened once. You know what happened after that? It was because it was a Saturday morning, I was really tired, I forgot about it, they called. I didn't answer the phone and I acted like I just forgot about it. And then I showed up to work. And I had a very big talking to about the impact of me not showing up, what that meant to the rest of my staff, how much harder they had to work, and then how much behind they got that day, and how that impacted the client experience, and how it impacted my patient care. And essentially how my poor selfish decision of wanting to stay in bed that morning ultimately impacted so many people that day. And I have yet to this day skip work. So anyway, don't squander, but if I'd done that again, I was fired. I would have lost it. 100% he would have fired me. He told me already, he's like, if you do this again, I'll fire you. I had one chance to screw up, and not another one. Have you been fired before? I got fired once. Was it fun? Have you been fired? Never? Never? Oh my God. Addie, we're gonna fire you.
Soon as I graduate.
Okay, all right, so, again, keeping up with my success conversation. So I used to work for, or I used to volunteer for Handshake America, it's not really that important. But we talk about the 5 Ps, so we have found that successful people tend to do these 5 things really good. One of them is perseverance. I think you've already kind of heard about my perseverance. I mean, I almost gave up, but I didn't. I just kept working, kept working. Passion. Ooh, this is a good one. Because they always say, like, pick something that's passionate, right? Are you guys passionate about that then? Or do you think you're passionate about that then? Yeah. Does that mean that you're gonna love every second of it? Absolutely not. Do you know what happens? So we talk about things like picking careers that you're passionate about is not always the best advice. And there's some YouTube videos that are amazing, like they explain really nicely, but ultimately, you should pick something that you are interested in. And then you need to start learning and experiencing it. And then as you experience it, you're gonna learn more about it, you're gonna learn more about it. And when you first start out in anything, it's exciting, you're learning so much. You're accelerating your knowledge, everything's going up, it's like, this is amazing. And then you know what tends to happen, if you have that job where you're like, you start to finally know everything, like as that assistant from the vet clinic. You ever figured that part out? What happens? Does it get a little boring? Kind of flattens out, right? Plateaus. It's almost like a weightlifter. When you first start out, it's like, oh yeah, you have PR after PR, and then you kind of hit that dip. Same thing happens when you pick a career and do things like that. You kind of hit this level out period where all of a sudden it's like it's not as exciting anymore. And you have to get into the perseverance and grit part because all of a sudden you're like, I'm not really doing anything. I'm not getting into vet school yet. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm working, and you're kind of stagnant. And that happens. But what happens with that is then you start to climb back up again. And you have to go through those periods of that trough or that dip. And that is when you really start to build passion. You start to enjoy the work part of it. Because when it comes down to it, that is work. So I just ask that yes, be passionate. Don't get me wrong, I am extremely passionate, but also know on average, I think you hate about 35% of anybody's job. So don't think that you're gonna love every second of it. Which I don't know where that stat really came from, but I heard it, so it's kind of real. But I would agree, there's probably this person. All right, positivity. Who's hung out with those negative people at work?
Standing up there to tell
Tell us that. Make sure you're positive, okay, you can impact everything, you can handle whatever you want, but if you're negative about it, this stuff really sucks. Surround yourself with people, that means have a good support group, that means surround yourself with people that you wanna be like, that also means start to introduce yourself and work with people that you want to be like. I hang out with people that are way above my league right now. Actually, I don't hang out. I'm like the little person that keeps me nagging them, but I can't help myself. Because they're so smart that I'm just like, please just let me into your club a little bit so that I can get it. And then presence just means like the whole package. That means you walk in and you have a brand about you. People know that you're dependable and your work. People know you're gonna be positive. People know that you're gonna help out. People know that you're gonna be teamwork. People know about you, being able to walk in and kind of have that presence about you is kind of having that total package to where you can go into an interview and they can feel it, that confidence about it. So putting that all together ends up with some presence. Any questions about the 5 Ps? That's my strongest recommendation. You do those things, I don't care what you do. You'll be positive. Okay, future of the profession. God, thank God you could have thought of that. All right, how many people know that there's gonna be a significant vet shortage in the next several years? You guys heard that? Some people talk to you about it? So depending on whose stats you read, there's gonna be a huge shortage. The population is going up. I agree that I think there's gonna be a shortage. I think it's multifactorial. I don't think it's just that the pet population is growing. I think we are working less in general. And so we're not, when people are retiring, we're not replacing them with people that work the same number of hours in some cases. We are also even worse on the vet technician side of things. And so that is pretty much a dying field and very hard to maintain. So just know, what does this mean to you if you become a vet? What's the good parts? Will you have a hard time finding a job? No, you can find a job anywhere. What's the bad part about it? You gonna work hard? Yeah. That means that each vet's trying to do the job of 2 vets in some cases. That means that you might be doing it without a veterinary technician when you need 2 more. Okay? And that gets frustrating.
Yeah, you have to learn to draw your own blood.
Yeah, I suck at drawing blood. I have been so spoiled. And I only am like, oh, that one looks juicy. I might actually try that. You're right. You might have to draw your own blood. Is that efficient? No, not at all. So I just want you guys to know that, yeah, the shortage is real. The shortage will always be here. You will have great job security. You'll be able to negotiate these great things. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, it just means that you're gonna have to do a lot of work. Or you're gonna have clients that are gonna be holding out and not being able to see anyone. And then ultimately, when you do get to see them, they may be sicker because they had to wait 2 or 3 days. So it can be a problem. To combat that, have you guys heard of all the new colleges? I have a buddy, I called him up. So the chief medical officer at Thrive that I used to work with, who is a mentor that kind of helped get me here. Ultimately, I called him up and I was like, hey, Bob, what's going on? Actually, I call him Mert, his first name's Bob, but I'm like, Mert, what's up? I'm like, you want to believe I'm doing this MBA? He's like, hey, yeah. He's like, you know what I'm doing? Oh, he was supposed to be retired. And then all of a sudden, he's like, yeah, I'm the founding dean for some new vet college in Billings, Montana. I've never even heard of it. And then there's another one, Hanover's opening one in Indiana. Clemson's just starting a new college. There's one in Jersey that just got approved, AVNA just approved. Most of them are following the distributive model. I don't know if you've heard the different models. Does anybody know what the differences are? No? Okay, that's all right. I don't know super well because I've never been to a distributive. Has anybody heard of Lincoln Memorial? Hospital, or not hospital, geez. Lincoln Memorial, down in Tennessee. The college thing. Anybody heard of that program? So it's one of the newer ones. Arizona is also one that is a distributed model. Essentially, they teach you your 1st, 2nd, and 3rd years, just like you would teach here. So you're on a regular campus. And then your 4th year, they spread you out amongst not schools like Ross and things like that. They spread you out amongst hospitals. So they have practices that you go and rotate through for 4 weeks at a time. And so instead of being trained at vet schools, you're actually being, or at a vet hospital, you're actually being trained in an actual functioning hospital. But you're being trained by regular veterinarians as the new structure. And so ultimately, it has lowered the barrier of entry for other schools to jump in, because with this model, you don't have to buy it and build a brand new hospital. You just have to have lecture space. And you have to have a clinical skills space. So ultimately, I suspect more and more of these are going to start popping up. And the reason why that's important is because those are going to be options for where you could apply. And so you're going to want to be able to evaluate the differences. I have no idea as far as cost, whether or not they cost the same or if they're going to be cheaper. So those will be some interesting questions of like, could you still get your degree, but do it at a cheaper rate? Could be, I don't know, not sure. I have to admit, Lincoln Memorial, when I was at Riverside, we paired with Lincoln Memorial, so we had Lincoln Memorial students, a good portion of the year. And so they would rotate through for 4 weeks, and we had checked certain things that they had to do. And so definitely different, but it may still be just as effective. So it'll be interesting as these hospitals or as these classes start graduating, how many they are graduating, whether or not that's gonna dig into that. But I think it will be something that you guys will be an option, because I know everybody's always like, oh, it's Ohio State, but it may be something that you might wanna look at other options. I believe even LMU has a program that if you enter in their undergrad program, then you roll straight in to their vet school program. In fact, that's what it is. Corinne. She just switched from Ross, and she's in whatever their rolling program is at LMU, and so I think next year she'll roll right in. Anyway, and they have a rotating schedule where they start classes biannually, I think, too, so they can get more students through. Anyway, it's interesting. The whole concept's interesting. I don't really have any judgments about it. I just wanted you to make sure that you guys are aware that's out there. Okay. How many people have applied to vet school? Okay. How many people have interviewed? How was it?
Good, I feel like interviewing is not the hard part to me, because I am naturally a social person. The
Okay.
hard part is then writing down what makes me different, in comparison to everyone else who's like, I wanted to be a vet since I was 5 years old, so. That's
Yeah.
hard for me, first.
How about you?
I get nervous, so it was just like keeping my nerves calm, being able to think clearly.
Yeah.
I was like, everything is going a mile a minute.
Yeah, it is hard. Well, because you want to be like thorough, but concise.
We can't talk fast, we can't talk.
Yeah. It's like, and you don't want to sound like a robot.
Nope.
Like I've memorized this. Yeah, I do think that you have to figure out what makes you different. And for some people, that's very easy. But for some people, I think it's challenging. I have sat on admissions, which I can't give away any of the secrets or anything of that issue, but I've sat on for the last 2 years. And it's interesting because sometimes the interviews, I've read their background and they're amazing. And then they get on there and they don't even talk about their amazing parts about how they ran this, and it's like, I'm like, you ran a whole freaking horse farm. Like, how is that not, your most relevant leadership skill right now? Like, most people can't manage 20 people. Like, that's a big skill. And so ultimately, I do think that it is important to try to think about and just know that it doesn't have to be net related. So like for me, when I applied, it really was me playing sports and being able to manage a heavy schedule together and leading on my team. Like it had nothing to do with it. It just had to do with personality. It just had to do with the type of person I was. But I had grit, I had time management skills, and I had leadership skills. So some of the things you can get involved in maybe has absolutely nothing. So I just make sure that you're aware of that, especially if it comes to volunteer and things like that. Be proud, advertise if you have grit and if you've experienced grit. And I think the biggest reason is because the rigor of vet school is hard. And so ultimately, I think anytime I can say like, hey, I think this person's gonna do well in here, because as long as you work hard, you are all smart enough to do it. It's just a matter of working hard. Leadership skills, I think, are great. Make sure that your experiences, that you're not just checking boxes. And that means that you really need to build relationships with the letters of recommendation. I have read some letters of recommendations that were just like, wow, clearly this person did not know this person. And just wrote a letter, a very generic letter. I've even heard some where pretty much they weren't recommending. You can read between the lines of like, oh, she kind of doesn't show up on time. I'm like, okay. So, make sure you're doing your part and make sure you're building a relationship with them. I I think the rest of it, we kind of hit. Questions about the application or process? Any questions about like trying to make yourself different or anything, I guess ultimately? Yeah,
I know this is kind of recent, but do you have any recommendations for Zoom interview versus in person? How to like make yourself kind of stand out more, because I feel like it's hard to make eye contact and be more personable on Zoom.
so the majority of them are Zoom nowadays, in fact, I think they all are. I'm only doing Zoom ones, in fact, I think Saturday. Yeah, Saturday, I have 4 or 5 hours of Zoom meetings. Yeah, you on Saturday? Maybe I'll see you later. Okay, so anyway, I think in general, I don't know if it's necessarily your body language or your eye contact. I mean, I think it would be very awkward if you're like this the whole time. Honestly, it's less about what I see in your body language and it's more about what you say. And like the points that you're trying to make. Cause I've had some people that have like great body language, but then I'm like, it's so shallow what they're saying, that I'm like, yeah, no. So I don't think, because a Zoom is always a little awkward. And so unless you're doing something really drastic, and there are absolutely 0 points taken off for awkwardness. It's all on content. And it is very rubric. We have no say. It is structured questions. We can't follow up with, I mean, it is structured. They have taken out all the, like, I think when I interviewed, it was about that. There was parts of it, but like, oh, I really like her, and things like that. She just seemed to have some confidence about her, but this one is not. It is all about your answer and how you answer.
It's interesting to hear, because if somebody were to hit all the points, they were like looking down the whole time, they said like easy things. That wouldn't affect it at all.
There is only one section in there that has to do with like overall my impression of that person. I'm trying to remember the rubrics in a year. You should ask me Monday. After Saturday, I would remember it all, but it's not off the top of my head. I think there is one like overview type thing, but really no. That what they're trying to do is take away the likability, like, oh, he's cute, or she's pretty, or whatever. I don't know. He's got an accent. Who doesn't love an accent, right? If I could just bring people in that have accents, I'd be in heaven,
That's fine.
So it's trying to take away that likability component to where you are being judged on who you are as a, versus the other things, which is really hard because we naturally do that. I'm in a organizational behavior class currently, and it's very interesting on how we manipulate each other and how we make decisions and how people manipulate you. It's really interesting. Like the likability component is real. And we are very biased about certain things, whether we like somebody or not, and it has a lot to do with looks and acts and things like that, as much as we try not to. What else?
So there's another speaker who came in for PVMA, and it was from Massey, and her rubric for the interview was like, we wanna like, it's like, we wanna make sure you're gonna be a good fit in terms of personality. So it's like, it's interesting to hear the different.
Which school?
Massey University, New Zealand.
Yeah, so each school gets to pick what they want to pick. And I remember participating in interviews years ago, like a while ago, and it was not this way. And so it is so much more structured now.
There was like structured questions, but I definitely could tell the interview was kind of like, we got off on tangents, and I just feel like, especially with Ohio State, that just really don't go off tangent. Yeah. No.
I accidentally made one follow-up question, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I got very informed afterwards.
I
did that once. Once. Because I'm very talkative. I'm like, I want to know this person, so I can really evaluate him. But what we do is that we help you. Because we're like, hey, tell us more about this. Because we can start to hear what cool things you're doing. And so we'll actually help you show your better self. And you have to show your better self. Yeah.
So a lot of people always say that the questions that OSU asked are online, because they're posted on there, and they're very similar to the ones that are asked. And so with that, I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have similar answers, like how do you distinguish if there's like a couple that have similar answers? Is it just like the overall portion that kind of pulls them ahead, or are there like certain actual key points that you need to hit?
There was usually key points, and like I said, I do not have it memorized, which
Yeah.
thank God I don't, because you guys would be, I'd be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 and like, totally against what I should do. So I thank God I do not remember. It is very spelled out as far as a 4 matches with this, so they have like kind of a wording, like, this is what we're looking for in a 4. This is what we're looking for in a 3, and this is what we're looking for in a 2. So it's very clear kind of written, and once you read that, and then I think about what you said, it actually is pretty intuitive. The questions, as far as I'm aware, throughout the years, have been very similar. So it's not like it's a trick.
Yeah.
So if people know what the, I don't know if it's or not, but if people know what they are, it's not like they hide them
Yeah.
very well. And the fact that they keep, because we joke every time, because I have not done it for like 20 years, I've only done it for a couple years. I know it's way different than what I did years ago when I used to do it, but the last 2 years, they always joke when I hop on, because they're like, you think they changed them at some point, you know, which maybe they'll change it this year, I don't know. I haven't done that.
Being signed an NDA for the interview. Like, they were very serious about it, and they did like a multiple mini interviews, and it's all pre-recorded, you don't speak to a person else, so it's just very weird in general. It was very, yeah.
Wait, did they only do that on
No.
That's how.
And you literally pre-record everything, you don't speak to a person. Yeah,
But they're trying to take the human component of it.
yeah.
So they're trying to make it as analytical, and they pretty much, I think, are. You know, one of the things, interesting that, on like who does well on the NASLE and stuff like that, has to do with your grades prior to coming in. Has nothing to do with how well you do in school. Here. While you're 3 or 4 years, so like we can flag who's gonna do well on that and who's not, you know, your performance prior to coming. Yeah, it's kind of scary. It's impressive, some of the data that's starting to get pulled out. Yeah, what else? I know I don't have much time, so. Oh,
Sorry.
I'm like, I feel like it's when I'm with my kids, I'm like, it's right there. Yeah.
How many vet schools would you recommend applying to?
Ooh, how many vet schools recommend applying to? Well, I guess my first question is what are the negatives of applying to multiple other than cost?
I would just say cost of time primarily.
Cost and time, that's what I would think. I mean, I wouldn't apply to anything that I wouldn't really want to go to.
Yes.
But to me, I would look at it, so I only applied one because I can only afford it in state. So I put all my eggs in one basket. But it's, you know, I think it's a little bit different, so if you have options to be able to do it, then I don't see why you shouldn't, unless you just don't like that state. Or you cannot accommodate the interview times or whatever it's gonna require. But I feel like, you know, you've already done the application, by the 3rd interview, you might be good at it, you know, I'm sure they're asking different questions. But it is nice to have options. If you get into multiple, or maybe you only get into one, and that's okay too, but you gotta choose one. So I can't really see too many negatives, I don't think they frown upon that. I don't even think that's even tracked on our side, but I could be wrong, I don't know, but I can't imagine a negative. It was kind of like me for my internships, like, I picked ones that I knew I'd be okay with actually going to, and then I kind of got back and was like, I'm going to choose them. But I was like, whatever, you know, you can't back out, so that's the biggest thing, is like, don't back out. But, you can decline it, but, and they'll have plenty of people in your spot. You know, I don't know, can anybody else think of a negative? Okay. Yeah.
Looking at like diversity of experiences when you're like filling out your application, like, is it important that you have diverse experiences with diverse types of veterinarians, or is it like enough to just have diverse experiences with different types of animals?
So it is, the one part that I do remember on that particular one, it has to do with diversity of animals, so like if you have experience with 4 different types of animals, but then it's also the depth of your experience with each of those animals. Okay, and so ultimately, like, the best of all best would be somebody that has experience with 4 different types of species and types of animals. Now, when I say species, like, you know, of course, or like a cow or a pig or something like that, it's still a food animal. So they're talking more like small animal versus research versus lab animal versus equine versus exotics or whatever. But it's the depth. And so what I found is that, like, when I look at some of them, it's like, yeah, they're checking the boxes, but they have depth in none of them. But I think if you like add depth in like 2 of them, you would actually make a huge difference, because the most common is to have depth, have 3 or 4, and then have really big depth in 1. That's the most common, I think that's the easiest, but you probably want to stand out, have depth in 2. And I think it would stand you out as far as point system. I don't know if that helps answer.
What do you mean by that?
That had to do like how. So, I would picture it like I'm an assistant at a practice where I just check them in and I maybe hold, and that's about it. Versus I'm recovering, I'm administering medications, I'm calculating for drugs, I'm helping with surgery, I'm recovering patients and scrubbing in and I'm doing, that's depth. Okay, so I am doing challenging skill sets in that field. Anything else? Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Sorry if I bored you with the non-vet stuff, but I think that's important. And